It is the instant match reaction for Manchester United X. It will be above 4, Everton 0 at Old Trafford. I am joined by Mark Mersey in Manchester Centre. Mark, unless Everton staged the most miraculous comeback we've ever seen. I mean, we've had a 4-4 at Old Trafford, but we've gone early. Then it won't be a surprise for anybody, but I mean, that was not enjoyable today in the slightest. I mean, you're just looking at your drink there. What have you got for the listeners?
I'm looking at what is meant to be a double in the same level of despair that I looked at Everton's back 4 on 55 minutes. How long are we going to kid ourselves?
The lads did half an hour last week, but I feel like we'll struggle with that today.
I mean, from a podcast point of view, yes, but from a footballing club point of view, how long are we going to fucking kid ourselves that the current setup, board, manager, team, whatever you want to call it, how long are we going to pretend that this is fine? Because that is absolutely abysmal. And I know that, we all got ourselves excited in the weigh-in for 20 minutes when it was all, I say going well. We had a shot on target from 20 yards from Lindstrom, who is clearly not a Premier League footballer, and all decided that we had a sudden entitlement to win the game. We're just shite. That is the worst Manchester United team and the worst kind of Manchester United setup that you could ever wish yourselves to play against. New manager, team in all sorts of turmoil that you could possibly wish to come to Old Trafford and play against, and we simply do not have. Remove all of the Manchester United stuff that I've spoken about there. Any form of Premier League team, we simply do not have it in us to beat anyone at the moment. And a lot has been made about coming here today and upcoming fixture list leading up to Christmas, and you can break the season down into however many mini segments you want to. We're shite. The players aren't good enough. The tactics aren't good enough. The manager clearly isn't good enough. Everyone above him isn't good enough to get rid of him, and the whole thing is a mess. And it's almost become a little bit of a running joke within ourselves. We're in a pub here with multiple Evertonians who've left the game at half time because we clearly know that as soon as this team hits 2 or 3-0 down, there is absolutely no way in hell.
Oh, 1-0. What? Let's be honest, it's 1-0, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
There is no way that this team has any level of resilience to work itself back into a Premier League football match. And you are dead right, but for the purpose of being fair to Everton, as soon as that hits 2 or 3-0, and I appreciate that there are individual errors, but there is nothing about that side that even semi-convinces you that they are capable of working themselves way back into the game. And Anthony Martial isn't even playing. just to remind everyone.
I joked this week that Xerxes was going to be the new Martial, and there he is with 2 goals so far. I mean, he might score a hat-trick by the time he finishes his podcast,
but he has arrived. What the score is now or what it will be in 10 minutes' time, ultimately it does not matter. We are all at the point now where we are all questioning what is the threshold for Sean Dyche leaving. What is the point where I apologise for hesitating, but we have to keep on top of how many goals have actually gone in here. But as we speak, it is still 4. But what is the threshold where we all say enough is enough? And with any other, and all negatives that have been said about all previous echelons of Everton that have gone before us in terms of what is the threshold of actually doing something about the manager or the team. We are way beyond that now, simply because there is simply not enough people at boardroom level to impact any form of consequential change. And we know the current situation that we're in. We know the holding ground that we're in, and we know that we're all just treading water before we walk into Bramley Moor with what we hope is a different identity, culture, team, manager, all of these words that we know have to change in the space of the next 7 or 8 months. But what we are waiting on, what we are paying for at the moment, what we are currently investing ourselves into is simply not good enough. There will be times when you can hang your coat on the fact that Dyche can get us something from a set piece, or he can get us something at the derby next week because of the atmosphere and because we can all dig in when it's the big games. But I know that it's Manchester United and I know that it's Old Trafford, but if your team is capable in the first 15 minutes of showing you that they are, dare I say it, on top, you've got more of the ball, you are capable of taking control of the match. We simply do not have the capability to do that because, I'm not there at Finch Farm during the week, but for my money, I look at that team and think you simply, and we saw this last weekend when the opposition team had a red card. We simply do not work enough on how you are capable of retaining the ball, using the ball. How do we break an opposition team down? How do we create chances? How do we score goals? And I'm not being flippant here. I'm not annoyed because we didn't score in the first 25 minutes at Old Trafford, because better teams than Everton will come here and struggle to score goals. But there has to be a level of resilience about your team to know that, fair enough, you have a level of control in this game, but if it doesn't work for you in the first 25, it doesn't mean that you capitulate in the next 35. And maybe, certainly fans of our age will know an Everton side who come here and lose frequently and lose heavily frequently here, but that is simply not good enough. Better managers have lost their jobs on better performances than what we've just watched here. We're probably going to get beat 4 or 5-0 against a team who the rest of the Premier League have been laughing about for the last 5 or 6 months. Ruben Amorim, I know nothing about the fella, but he's just walked himself into a comfortable home debut here simply because of the fact that he's playing against Everton.
He must have been made up. He was playing against those
100%.
Yeah.
And how many times have we said that about managers, clubs in general, strikers who are out of form, goalkeepers who've been throwing them into the back of their own net? The remedy for a poor footballer or a poor footballing institution is 90 minutes against Everton.
Dr. Everton
will bring you back into the fold, because that is simply the only reason why Everton are here. And what pisses me off most about institutions like TalkSport and all kind of general national media is that they see Everton as pointless now. And I think
are we a bit pointless though?
The thing that pisses me off most about that is the fact that they are absolutely spot on, because we are pointless. We are just taking up one of those 20 places. And I know that, if Everton survive this Premier League season, it will be because some other team has had a points deduction, or we have, for a third season in a row, found 3 teams who are shitter than us. We'll probably do that this year, and we'll probably get into Bramley Moore next year as a Premier League team, which, for a man and for everyone listening, I think is the only thing that we are ever thinking about at the moment. But is that good enough? I almost pity the people who support Dyche at the moment, because the only thing that I can possibly think that makes them do that is the sheer desperation of wanting to get into Bramley Moore as a Premier League side. We've been holding back for years. We've been holding back for years as a fucking football club who've reserved ourselves in terms of.
I'm gonna a soapbox here.
we've not wanted to kind of really positively portray our ambition, because there is a sense of Everton. I'm going back a few years now in terms of not wanting to portray ourselves as a football club who's entitled to success. We've gone through enough years now of shite to know that we are not entitled to success. But the people who stand by Sean Dyche, the club, the hierarchy, I use the word hierarchy loosely because there is clearly no one there in a human sense that could actually impact any form of change. But there is no one there in that 3,500 strong fan base that can convince me that there is something to hang your hat on. You know, England's best goalkeeper in a while. That is probably the only thing that we've got going for us. There is nothing there to substantiate the fact that there is something to build on. And I get people's hesitation in terms of saying, well, Sean Dyche is a manager who has kept us up. He could potentially keep us up. What better is out there, etc., etc. But my God, there are better. There are poorer teams and there are smaller, in inverted commas, football clubs existent in this league that are showing that a little bit of risk can take you places. Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and I'm not being flippant in, you know, talking about just simply the last 5 or 6 weeks of footballing form and saying that's everything that we need to aim for. But my God, just accept the fact that this fella probably isn't the answer.
Probably.
And I'm being very generous here.
Sit on the fence,
I'm being very generous in the fact that I appreciate that there are strengths. You know, Everton could go out and win a couple of set pieces and be the bigger men. And
You don't even do that anymore, though. That's the thing.
But if I'm talking about the derby next week, which my mind has already turned to, I can harp back to the Tarkovsky and the Brownthwaite era of, you know, let call it an era. Let's be horrible in the opposition 18 and let's try and get something next week, and we'll probably get a point out of the derby. You know, who the fuck cares?
You are very optimistic.
Who the fuck cares about getting the odd point here and there? Because this is a team that should be developing on the small amounts of technical ability that it has. Can we learn how to grind down opposition teams? Can we learn how to come to places like Old Trafford, which are historically very difficult to come to, and try and stand up for yourselves and show a level of resilience whereby if it doesn't happen for you in the first 20 minutes, can you actually just sustain 5 or 10 minutes of pressure? And I appreciate that there's deflections and there's individual errors today, but fuck me, every Premier League team goes through this, and as fans now, we are double-digit numbers of years into looking at our own team thinking, when is it going to happen? When is it going to change? When are the Moyes years going to come back? And it's just, isn't it just a bit fucking pathetic at this stage to be going through the whole Allardyce, Shakespeare, Dyche era of knowing, oh, it's still 4-0. Fuck me, thanks for that. Oh, it's a penalty, great. So it's 5-0. And there is nothing about Everton Football Club that, as an Everton football fan, you can hang your hat on to say, I believe in this, or I fuck off, get off me, don't touch me. There is.
I was just going to ask, are you okay?
Fuck off. No, I'm not. There is nothing about Everton Football Club that anyone in the last 40 or 50 years can say, I believe in this now. And if that is the case, then substantial change is needed. But there is ultimately no one there. There is no one there to instigate this change. Right? You fucking talk about that team.
Are you all right?
No. No.
I mean, I feel like Rob would have been proud of that fucking monologue, but I mean, United got a penalty to make it 5-0. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point, but I mean, I don't know where to start from that. I mean, I agree with basically everything you said there. It was, I mean, we're all watching the penalty together. That's not the penalty together. Chelsea are 3-0 against Villa, in case anybody wants to know. But the thing about it was, like, they were so bad for the first half an hour today. Like, it wasn't like one of those games where you get a new manager, it's your first home game in the Premier League, and everyone's like up for it, and the players react to it. Like, I think they started probably a bit better than us, and then a few little flurries, and then between like minutes like 10 and 30, we had control of the game, and we had control very loosely, and we had a chance to a few chances to score, we had a few chances to create chances, and like better goes around the goalkeeper and Diaz a few little moments, but like there's nothing whatsoever really. I mean, is it 5-0 now, or have they missed? Maybe stayed behind.
It's 7.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but like I was saying to you guys before, like I feel like anybody, like I feel like 15 teams in this league are a goal up there in that first half an hour, and as much as like you want to talk about Dyche and his management style and how he goes about things, I think finish 4. I think sometimes you need to take the opportunity when it comes to you and like seize the chance, and I feel like him and these players haven't really got it in them. Like between minutes 10 and 30 there, the opportunity was there for Everton to go and get a goal or two and potentially take this game away from you. You know, that ground was silent, wasn't it? Like it was so quiet, like they were nervous, like it was a bit edgy, and like I suppose to Jay for the weekend preview, like before the game, he was saying like, oh, Everton are one of those teams a little bit nervous, like, but you know, ultimately, like we missed our chances, like them scoring a deflected goal shouldn't be the catalyst for us completely collapsing, should it? Like them scoring, you should be right. Let's crack back on again, but you know, score a jammy goal. We'll get back to what we're doing. Well, we'll carry on. And what is it like? But in 10 minutes, either side of our time, we're 3-0 down. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Everton, if we come to Old Trafford and play reasonably well, call it a 7 out of 10 for the first 20 minutes. I am not castigating this team for not having the predatory instincts to finish that game off, because ultimately if we were that type of team we wouldn't be in the situation that we've been in for years. But as you said, Matt, there has to be a level of resilience where if one flukes in off a defender or whatever it was for that first goal, you have to have some form of calm within the backroom staff or the playing team, or
these have been shite for half an hour.
Someone has to get hold of that.
Again.
You're all Premier League footballers. Someone has to get a grip of that game and say, I know we've been good, I know something's gone against us, but let's just try and get a hold of the ball for the next 10 minutes. But the problem with us going forward is that it almost feels as though we're entering the opposition third by chance, simply because we're capitalising on Mainu's missed pass or Bruno Fernandes miscontrolling something, or some small elements of misfortune, meaning that we are able to somehow capitalise on Dwight McNeil getting on the half turn and possibly picking the right pass out. And the reason that I'm quite hesitant in all of those things that I'm saying is that everything about Everton's play is so consequential that there's no choreographed nature to how an Everton team plays football anymore, other than the fact that occasionally we might get a free kick on the halfway line and the lads who are built like fruit machines might come up and win a header in the opposition 18 and we'll win a knockdown, or someone like Ilman Ndiaye will pick the ball up on the left hand side and maybe, and I'm being generous here, 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 times pick a pass out to Beto, who can win us a corner that we all get excited about, which ultimately fades to nothing. And you know, that's not me. That's not me being facetious here. That is all that we've really got to get majorly excited about. And I think that, you know, the current state of Everton's mentality and how we set our team up can be summarised by the fact that we are just throwing any, you know, in terms of a starting 11 point of view, we are just throwing anything at that 11 to come up with answers, be it Lindstrom out wide, be it Beto up top, you know, be it McNeil in a 10 or Ndiaye out wide, switching them round.
Playing well away. Yeah. He's like a fine. He's not, I say fine, like he's like an all right Premier League player.
But you know, we've all spoken about the fact that Abdoulaye Doucouré, if he plays, we've seen, like it or lump it, we've seen the best of what Abdoulaye Doucouré has to offer for an Everton side, and it's in behind the striker. You know, he is not your 6 or your 8. Every time he gets on the ball on the halfway line or picking it up off the back 4, you absolutely shit yourself, because you know that he is not capable of being the man on the ball to instigate play or to dictate how your team's going to go forward in possession. And I wish it was different, but I've seen enough from Mangala to suggest that maybe there is enough of a footballer there to be someone who is just calm-headed enough to pick out a ball to a number 10 or pass the ball out wide to a Lindstrom or whoever it may be. And then I know that players are ultimately going to break down in all of these situations, but my God, we need someone who is just capable in that midfield. And Idrissa Gueye is the closest that we've got to it at the moment, of putting a foot on the ball and just relaxing the 9 other lads in an outfield position around him.
That's not his game. That should not be his game ever, should it?
It shouldn't, because he's ultimately the one to break it up. And there needs to be someone alongside him who is going to actually start play as opposed to end the opposition play.
But one of the biggest cheers was Idrissa Gueye getting his foot in.
Yeah, but like that's all we have. Being, plucky old Everton being combative in the middle of the field. But when the tables turn and you've got a Brentford side who are down to 10 men, or you've got a United side who are clearly low on confidence, who is going to be there to actually show us what Everton having a football looks like? And you're never going to see that with Sean Dyche. And we are obviously so early in the day here to even talk about what Sean Dyche might talk about in a post-match conference, but he's going to give you no insight into how he's disappointed in how Everton held the play today. It'll be disappointment in the nature of the first goal, disappointment in how we gave the ball away for a second goal,
2, 3, and 4 are big mistakes,
and how we capitulated from there, etc. It's just footballing bollocks. Talk to me about why your team didn't perform, about how you set it up to be for the last five nights or 5 days or whatever the fuck you do at Finch Farm, because there is no, and I know it's a very, very footballing fan cliche to say you've shown me nothing on a Saturday or a Sunday about what you've done for the previous 5 days, but there is nothing about Everton's whole football team that suggests to me that we talk about anything during the week other than keeping a tight line, protecting the fucking V, and what we do from set pieces going forward.
And it's that stuff which I think is quite embarrassing for him, because there's been a few weeks where it's been we kept a clean sheet against West Ham, kept one against Brentford, but it's sort of well, have a look at who you played against. You played against a team in West Ham who have been dreadful this season. Played against a team against Brentford who've not got any points away from home all season. I think it's all relative, and I think today was a bit of it's one of those where you sort of hope this run's not going to be as bad as it actually looks on paper, but then when you see today, you see the mistakes we made, you think, goodness me, it could be a horror show. We've got John as well. John, how are you feeling after this, mate?
Disgusting. They were there for the taking the first 20-25 minutes.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
They're poor. They were really, really poor. We just seemed that just lacked game management. There was no one that you thought get the foot on the ball and then just manage the game, drive it forward. The final third, there was just nothing. I can kind of see why he played Beto over DCL, for form, but it just lacked something. No inspiration, no spark. Every player that got on the ball, you just thought there's very little coming from this, particularly going forward. But defensively, in the first 20-25 minutes, it was so comfortable. Comfortable.
Yeah. That's where you need a team or a player to just have a bit of a nose for what's going on, to say we're actually all right here. Joe, I can picture a Palace or a Forest or a Fulham in particular coming here, and I know that some of those teams are probably technically better than us at the moment, but I can picture some of those teams coming here with a mentality of, if they show me weakness in the first 20 minutes, we're going to put our foot on their neck. And I appreciate the fact that there's deflections and individual errors to account for here, but there is no nous about that team. You talk about James Tarkowski. The reason he's in that side is to provide Premier League experience.
Let's be honest, he's been awful this season.
He's been crap.
I think Keane could easily come in for him.
Absolutely. And I want Jarrett Branthwaite to make mistakes, because that is ultimately fundamental to the lad's growth.
I don't want him to make any mistakes.
I accept that, but it's going to happen, and we've seen it before, and we've seen it today, and we'll see it again. But there is.
Can we defensively talk about Mikalenko, who is one of the worst defenders I've ever seen in my life?
I think the caveat in terms of the manager and the mentality and the backroom shake-up in the stadium and all of these things that detract from the fact that we've got some pretty crap footballers, and we're gonna struggle for probably the next 2 or 3 years to get away from that fact. And the fact that we're throwing Beto at issues and we're throwing Lindstrom at issues, Jack Harrison has probably come on in the time that we've been speaking. Calvert-Lewin probably has shown his face. There are a lot of bang average footballers who play for Everton at the moment who are dining out on the fact that we are the club in chaos. And the problem I have now looking at it is I can't really foresee a moment of major change unless we massively roll the dice at a point of the season like we are in now, on 12 points, correct me if I'm wrong, going into Christmas on, just to reiterate that point, 12 points going into December.
2 wins.
Thinking, how do we possibly make something happen here? And we are in the era of Premier League football now, where teams go into the Premier League Christmas 10 on single digits, and that will ultimately be the making of an Everton side who managed to stay up on 33 points. But my God, expect better from your team and from your club and from your manager. There is room for growth here if we just all universally accept that Sean Dyche did a job, Frank Lampard did a job, keep us in the Premier League with the set of players that you've got. But fuck me, Everton, roll the dice every now and again, because there are teams out there who are occasionally doing this. And do you know what? I'll probably look back on this in a couple of years and think you were an idiot, but if we roll the dice and relegation happens and we manage to work our way back into it, at least we'll be able to tell ourselves that something happened in our prime years when we were supporting this football team, because most of the league are looking at us now and saying, you are boring. You do nothing.
Boring and shite.
You simply take up, and fair play, you have done since 1992, you take up a place in this 20-team league that other teams would fucking die for, and we are pointless. This is a pointless football team that does fuck all year after year, and you can stop laughing because we're shite.
And do you know what's really, really sad for me is, at half time, everyone is saying exactly the same. Everyone's getting a bevy and then going, this is shit.
Well, just for context, I went for a bevy at half time, and as I was walking back up to my seat, John came down with my coat and said, it's 3, we're off. And that is all. We're being flippant here about people who are fortunate enough to get tickets and be able to afford to go to the game and support the club. I know that people would die to go to a ground like Old Trafford and see an Everton team in some way perform for 15 minutes. But where is the return? Where is the return for people like us, or for people who listen to this podcast saying
we don't go to many? I think I'm sorry for people who go to loads of aways.
Absolutely fine. Yeah, and in no way condescending way at all pity people who spend their leisure time following this football team up and down this country, because there is no return from Everton Football Club to its football to its fans in terms of what it actually means to. And this is on the back of a week where we're meant to be like selling tickets for a £52,000 capacity stadium, which will ultimately be fantastic, and I'm sure we'll beat Norwich 1-0 on the opening day of the Championship season, and it'll be great. But fuck me, there has to be something more to supporting Everton. Everton, who we've all been told by our dads for years were sound once. You know, this wasn't how it's always been. We were sold a vision. We were sold a vision in 1995 that it was going to be better than this. I am yet to return on that, and I will forever hold my dad in contempt for that for that sole thing. But you know, there has to be someone, and I know that, you know, we very flippantly say there's no one who can sack Dyche, there's no one who runs the club, etc., etc. There is someone there. There is someone running this business who says this is simply not good enough anymore. There has to be, because if there isn't,
but they might not have a job in a month. So like, what? They pay him off, or like it's
how long can we tread water for? You know, if we what are we, 1st of December now? We probably lose every game in December. Yeah. We do fuck all in the January transfer window, and we get to the end of January, start of February, Friedkin maybe takes over at that point. You can't really impact any form of reasonable change then, because ultimately you're sacking Dyche for another night watchman who comes in and takes us to April or May and keeps us up because there's 3 teams who are absolutely dreadful. Where does that cycle end?
I think they should be speaking to David Moyes now and saying, do you want it to the end of the season? Like, 100%. I feel like I don't really think he should be here beyond that, but if you couldn't get him to the end of the season now, and I don't know if he'd want that. I feel like he'd probably want a bit more, maybe want to be the first year of Bramley Moore, but if you can get him in, I feel like he's just like a much better manager objectively than the fella we've got now. And it's not just that, it's the fact that everything is going wrong with them. Like, 2 defenders today making like massive mistakes for like 2 of their goals, like Tarkowski, Branthwaite. The staple of what we've been doing last year when we were good, in inverted commas, was those 2 being solid, and they're giving the ball away in terrible positions. Like, well, am I losing it? Like, I feel like you signed with David Moyes, you see what he wants at the end of the season, and then you go from there. But who knows when this is going to be done? Like, when we're going to get a new ownership in? It's yeah. You know, it's all very fluid at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. It's painful being an Everton fan currently. You look at the next fixtures and you think we are getting absolutely no points in December whatsoever, and then happy Christmas, like we're going to get battered.
The thing that worries me most, like, you know, everyone looked at December and said Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, City, Arsenal. Fuck me. Everyone looked at those 4. Everyone looked at those 4 or 5 games and obviously sounded out the major hazards there. I look at Wolves. Yeah. I look at Wolves on Wednesday and think,
that's a huge game.
Going back to the Brentford game, how on earth does this team, if Iliman and Dye is not playing well, break down this side? How on earth do we do that? Because we simply do not have the technical capability. And in the past, where you would go back, you know, romantic Everton fans will look at December and think, well, do you know what? I go back to Marco Silva's end of the season where we beat Arsenal, we beat Man United, and we beat everyone who came to Goodison Park.
We beat Liverpool and Chelsea last year, didn't we?
When backs are against the wall, there is something about Everton that is capable of grinding out points or occasional wins where you think, Joe, I didn't see that coming in December, and maybe we go into January with fresh eyes, but it's this cyclical nature of turgid Everton where I think, how long are we going to do this for before? And I haven't got names for people, I haven't got some form of tactical structure for people in terms of how this is meant to work, and it's quite simply someone else's job to come up with all that. But if we're gonna invest in this, you know, director of football nature, where someone runs the team, someone runs the culture, someone runs how a traditional Everton game or goal is meant to look like. There has to be someone better out there than this fellow who's just come in to just...
Do you mean Dyche or Felwell?
Well, Joe, Kevin Felwell's going nowhere, so I'm not even...
His contract's up at the end of the season.
But I'm not going to point fingers there, because I simply do not think that as a football club we're going to say, director of football, off you go. And I know that Dan Fryken is, very, very capable of being the man who comes in and instigates major change. But I think if he does that, it's probably going to be in playing staff and at the highest level, manager. We are probably going to see a new manager in May, and we've all accepted that. And to a man, Sean Dyche has probably accepted that. But does that mean on the 1st of December that we all hold our hands up and say, let's just tread water for 6 months because we're shite, and we'll be shite until...
we could go down.
We're probably going to get relegated here if we don't do anything. Yeah. Southampton are goners. Leicester look bad. But other than that, is this just another? Is this just another year? They've at least got a bit about them now, haven't they?
They've got beat 4-1 yesterday.
But they do play a Man United side last week and say, we'll stand. I appreciate it's a Portman Road, but we'll stand up to you.
Ipswich, you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, excuse me. For Ipswich to play against Man United and say there is something about us here that will show you that you are actually not Manchester United of 1999 or any other era of United that has shown up and comfortably beaten sides like us off the park. There are other sides with more fight than us, and I think that has been our concern in years gone by. It is definitely my concern now in terms of other teams being way more capable than us of grinding out results, and I just want to see something different. I don't want to go through this constant seasonal nature of getting to January, February, appreciating it going wrong, binning someone off, getting someone crap in who'll take us to May and maybe to the Christmas of next year, and trying to instigate very temperamental changes.
Well, we need to do that now, don't we? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In a time where you are now 5 points from the drop, few teams below you who are...
We 5 plus the relegation zone?
Well, 5 places, should I say. But there is at least some form of small degree of comfort between us and relegation. Do you at this point say, let's just go and try and be better? Let's just try and be better, as we all agonisingly look at the league table.
We're in 15th now, and we are 2 points clear of Wolves, who are in 18th.
But the thing that interests me about looking at that league table, I look at Southampton and Ipswich and Leicester perhaps as being sides who you look at and think you're in trouble. I look at Palace and I look at Wolves.
I think Palace will be fine.
I look at both of those sides and think you'll be fine, because there's a degree of knowing that we'll pick results out here. We've gone out and we God knows. I couldn't even tell you who the fucking Palace manager is right now, because they've gone out. They've gone out and done things that have tried to implement some form of change about how their football team looks on a week-by-week basis. And Everton consistently trudge through the fucking treacle every single week and just try and be slightly different week on week. And we are simply not that. And how many years have we've been recording this same podcast now to say we are simply absent of ideas, and we thought that Sam Allardyce was the pit of it. We thought that Sean Dyche was going to be the pit of it, and I'm not here to say that we go and buy someone else who's going to be instated in this Dyche role of just seeing us through for another year. And I would throw Lampard into that mix of simply not being good enough for the role that we foresee. That was, David Moyes' legacy will be the death of us, really, won't it? In terms of someone who came up from the Championship, took on a poor side, but said, actually, I'm not just going to stagnate with the players that I've got. I'm going to try and go out and buy players, cheap on the market. I'm going to actually, God forbid, Everton train my footballers to be better than what they currently are, and I'm going to try and build something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And we simply do not have a man who is interested in that, because we are just consistently trying to hold our own water in, what are we, 16th place? And I to reiterate an earlier point, I simply do not know anyone who looks at Everton or Sean Dyche's Everton, and in particular that man, and says there's something here to buy into, because there just simply isn't, and you are kidding yourselves.
We'll leave it there. I feel like I should ask on behalf of the listeners, Mark, are you okay? Are you alright after that?
I think I'm fine. Oh, this is, there's got to be something. There's got to be a purpose to this, hasn't there? Not just for us. We're crammed around a few pints in a Manchester boozer and it's all lovely, and we can all forget about it. But as a business and as a football team, there has to be a greater level to what we are watching at the moment. And don't throw this back in my face when we grind a 1-0 out against the champions elect, who are our rivals, by the way, who will go and fucking walk the lot.
Wolves for a second.
Fuck that game off. But
that's the bigger game. Wolves is our bigger game.
It is, but people do not see that. People look at your Liverpool and Chelsea at home the week before Christmas. Wolves on Wednesday, Forest in between Christmas and New Year. They are unfortunate in the games where Everton will trip up on, and we've all seen it before. But let's not go into Christmas on 16th, or let's not go into the end of the January transfer window on 16th or 17th on 13 or 14 points and think maybe we can do it, because maybe I'm misplaced here, and maybe I'm just putting Everton into way upper echelons than they ever deserve to be. But my God, we should be better than this, and maybe the players aren't there quite now to substantiate that fact, or maybe the manager isn't quite there to support that either. But there is something about this football club that should strive for better, and there is nothing about Sean Dyche that amplifies what I'm saying there in terms of some form of forward thinking about what we should be in the next few years. And the stadium is Sean Dyche's worst enemy, because the stadium represents change.
He's not going to be here next year, is he? Regardless.
He's absolutely not. But if we all collectively know that as fans, surely someone at the football club knows that Sean Dyche probably isn't the man who takes us into Bramley Moor. And if you know on the 1st of December that 6 months later he's not the man who takes you in there, then
fuck him up.
Stop sitting on your fucking hands.
Well, who's going to be the one who? I mean,
who does that?
Who makes that decision? Like ultimately, the take home could be tomorrow. It could be like 2 weeks time. It could be like a month's time. Like that's the situation. I feel like any other situation in the machinery, you would have been gone like long. I think
yes.
Maybe after Bournemouth, you would have been gone like after 3-2, like that game.
Yeah.
Like that would have been the end for him, but because like machinery ultimately doesn't care anymore, and he's waiting for this takeover to happen. Like we're just stuck, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're ultimately stuck. So
make the call, Usman off. Free his money up.
I mean, we've done 43 minutes there, so Les, I hope you're happy after last week. I mean, I feel like a lot of that was Mo's getting stuff off his chest. He's got his head in his... we
are going to give him a cuddle in a minute.
Yeah, he's alright. People don't worry. But yeah, was it 4-0 in the end?
4-0.
4-0. Everton
Who
lost.
fucking cares?
Everton lost. What happened with the penalty then? Did Pickford save it? Or?
I don't know, but...
there you go.
Tarkowski was hooked, so that says it all.
This is the kind of analysis you get here on the Blue Room. But yeah, Everton lost 4-0. Pickford might have saved the penalty in the end, but yeah, disappointing times. We'll be back this week with Blue Monday byline. Just scrubbing his own face here. And we'll have Wolves on Wednesday. So yeah, up the toffees. Speak to you guys soon.